Okay, so in regards to the thinning of the apple tree, haven't done anything with it yet. Probably should have done it a little bit sooner, but everything was going on with the garden, so haven't had a chance yet. But you see that this year there's lots of fruit set, lots of blossoms, lots of fruit that was set. And last year didn't have any fruit. The year before that had tons of fruit with worms in them. So what I read about it is that the tree will go into the alternate bearing cycle, or every other year type thing, where it puts a ton of fruit, and then the next year it takes a year off because it doesn't feel any need to put out the fruit. So basically what I need to do, and part of that is because whenever it has this is one blossom cluster here, and you can see that there was one that did not it started to form, but it didn't form all the way. One mini or blossom that did not become an apple, and then there's a tiny one there, and then three larger ones, and then the one big one, which I believe they call the king blossom. So right here there's 6 apples that would have been trying to be formed, and that is going to be too many for the branch to hold, too many for the tree. If each one of those blossom clusters produces all 6 apples, there's no way the tree is going to produce big juicy fruit, which is what we had when it was 2 years ago. They were not very large, besides the worm problem. So basically what we need to do is come in and thin these, and this is going to help get rid of the stuff that's not going to make it. Obviously this is the biggest fruit, so we want to keep that, get rid of all the others, so that all the energy goes into this one instead of trying to make a bunch of little fruit. We want fewer fruit but larger. And here's another example of why you need to thin, because here is like 2 blossoms that were next to each other, and there are 4 of this size, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. So there's 9 fruit trying to form in an area, the size of my fist. That's not going to be very good for the fruit that you want to eat. So one of the things also that I read when researching this, because I've been trying to figure out what is going on, how to prevent this every other year thing, and they said that one of the things is the tree, when it sets the buds for next year, the fruit buds, which it sets the fruit buds in this year. So this year, later in the fall, in the summer, it will start growing and decide how many buds it's going to produce for next year based upon what's going on now. And they said that one of the things that makes it go into the overproducing and underproducing is it senses right now that there's 1,000 apples on this tree, because that's how many there are. So it decides, oh, you know what, I don't need to put any out for next year. I've got tons of them, and it takes the year off. And then last year, that's what it did. It took the year off. But then when it set the buds or the blossoms for the fall, for this year, it said, hey, I don't have any fruit, I better put out a bunch. So what they said is that the tree can sense how many fruit that it has, and it will put out the buds for next year according to what it's got on here. So if it senses all these, it's not going to produce as much. So basically that's why we're going to go in here and knock a bunch of all these little guys, or cut them off here, because they don't come off very well. So they recommend snipping them. So pull these off so that there's only 2 apples here, 1 apple there, 1 apple here, instead of 20 apples in that spot, because here's another one. There's 2, a big one, a medium, and then 2 tiny guys. And so this tree still senses the number of fruit. So this is 4, even though those 2 guys are probably not going to be any big at all. So by thinning it out, we're going to help make it more even, hopefully, so we can get to every year production, and also reduce our issues, our chances of infection and bugs and stuff like that, because when there's that many fruit crammed in together, grown in together, touching each other and stuff, whatever it is, that the bugs can actually find refuge in between them, and there's just it breeds. It's a good breeding ground for bugs and stuff, versus when there's just one. There's air circulation on all sides. There's no little home there. So that's what we want to do, is to see, there's 2 more guys. Get rid of them. Have the one, increase air circulation to decrease fungal problems. Also make it easier to spot any bug problems, decrease the chance of bug problems, and just get fewer but larger, higher quality fruit. So that is what we're going to try to do this year, and I'm going to try to do that today, later, and hopefully we'll get it done, and we'll have those bigger, juicier, higher quality fruits rather than a whole bunch of wormy apples and none next year. So that's it for the apple thinning.